The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear. But what happens when they're the ones who finally hear something, in the silence you left behind? They didn't expect it to cut this deep, my friends. They thought your silence meant nothing, but in truth, it meant everything. It meant the old version of you, the one who begged, who explained, who chased, who argued, had been laid to rest. And what rose in its place? A version they never thought they'd face, a man who no longer needed noise to prove his presence. Hey folks, imagine this. You're in a room and there's this massive storm raging outside. People are yelling, lightning's cracking the sky, the wind is throwing things against the window, but you're not out there. You're inside, calm, still, just sipping your coffee. You're not ignoring the chaos. You've just outgrown the need to be in it. That's what silence feels like to someone who's finally found his peace. And to the ones who once thrived off your reactions, that peace sounds like thunder. You see, my friends, they expected the script to stay the same. They thought they'd get one more round of "let me explain" or a desperate "please don't leave." But instead, you gave them nothing but distance, breath, and dignity. And that hit different. Because here's the truth they never wanted you to learn. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means self-mastery. Anyone can yell. Anyone can vent. But to stand still in the middle of emotional fire and not flinch, that's elite. That's stoic. That's powerful. You didn't go silent to confuse them. You went silent because you stopped needing to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. Let's kill the lie right now. They told you that the louder you speak, the more you're heard. False. The world's loudest people are often the ones most ignored. Why? Because real influence doesn't come from noise. It comes from presence. The man who can walk into a room and say nothing but shift the energy entirely. That's the man they remember. That's the man they chase after they lose him. That's the man you are becoming. And look, I get it. It's not easy. Going silent feels unnatural at first. We're wired to respond, to explain, to defend. But once you realize that not everything deserves your energy, a different kind of power awakens inside you. You start noticing how many conversations were traps, how many "let's talk" moments were setups, and how many times you poured yourself out for people who never even brought a cup. That's when silence becomes a shield, not to hide behind, but to walk with. So if you're listening to this right now thinking, "Damn, that's where I'm at," then let me tell you, you're not alone. You're not bitter. You're becoming. You're not avoiding. You're evolving. You're stepping into a space where peace is louder than chaos, where clarity outweighs closure, and where silence becomes your loudest statement. Type this in the comments if this hit you. Silence is my power. Say it loud. Or better yet, write it quiet, because not everyone needs to hear it, but you need to own it. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because this journey, it's only just begun. Number 1, they thought silence was weakness until it echoed. The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself. Your silence, my friend, was never weakness. It was never cowardice. It was never avoidance. But they thought it was. They believed you went quiet because you had nothing left to say, because you were hurting, because you were too soft to speak. What they didn't understand is that your silence was the lion. And when you stopped roaring, that's when they started hearing everything they had ignored for so long. Let's go there for a second. Picture a battlefield, one side screaming, beating drums, yelling threats across the field, and the other side still, quiet, focused. The silence from the still side, it shakes the air. It messes with the minds of the loud. Why? Because silence in the face of chaos isn't surrender. It's control. And control is terrifying to those who don't have it. They didn't expect your stillness to hold that much weight. They assumed your quiet meant you were breaking, that you were too hurt to talk, that you had lost. But the truth is, folks, you had finally stopped wasting your energy on people who weren't listening in the first place. This is where the questions started boiling in their minds. Why isn't he saying anything? Why isn't he fighting back? Why isn't he trying to explain? They waited for that text, that last paragraph, the desperate voice note, something, anything. But it never came. And when it didn't, their minds didn't go quiet. They got louder. That's the irony of silence. It doesn't just shut things down. It forces them to turn up the volume inside their own heads. The echoes of your absence start bouncing off every wall in their mind. And that echo, that's where the real reckoning begins. They thought you'd fold. They thought you'd flinch. They thought you'd break the silence first. But you didn't, because you weren't reacting from pain. You were rising from clarity. You see, people fear silence when they no longer control the story. When you're quiet, they don't know what version of you they're dealing with anymore. Are you healing? Are you done? Are you coming back stronger? Are you gone for good? That unknown is what truly cuts deep. Because people can handle arguments, they can handle chaos, they can even handle a breakdown. But what they can't handle is you not needing them anymore. And that's what your silence did. It exposed the truth. It shattered the illusion. It revealed that your presence was never theirs to control. It was a gift, a consistent, steady, patient gift. And when you pulled it back without warning, without explanation, they finally had to sit with the reality they ignored. They never appreciated it while it was there. Let's break a big lie here. People will tell you, you need to speak your truth. And yes, sometimes you do. But other times, your silence speaks louder than any truth you could scream. Because when you stop explaining, when you stop defending, when you stop trying to be understood, you force others to confront what they never wanted to see. And that's scary. For them, because silence is a mirror, and most people aren't ready to see themselves in that reflection. Now let's talk about you, because I know it wasn't easy. Choosing silence, that took strength. It took restraint. It took a level of emotional mastery most never even touch. Anyone can explode. Anyone can rant. But to hold your tongue when every cell in your body wants to lash out, that's powerful. That's Stoicism in its purest form. And that's why they're rattled. You didn't go quiet to be cruel. You went quiet to protect your peace. You chose stillness because the battlefield wasn't worth another drop of your energy. And that's the shift. That's the evolution. When a man stops performing, when he stops being predictable, when he stops being accessible to people who never earned access in the first place, everything changes. But why is it so hard? Because we've been conditioned to believe that silence means losing, that the loudest one wins, that if we don't say something, we'll regret it. But let me tell you, you'll never regret walking away with your dignity intact. You'll never regret not explaining yourself to someone who was never listening. You'll never regret choosing peace over performance. They didn't expect it to cut this deep, but it did. Not because you said something hurtful, but because you said nothing at all. And that nothingness, that was everything. Now they're living in the space your voice used to fill. They're checking for your name, waiting for a sign, wondering if you're still thinking about them. But what they don't see is that you're not waiting to be remembered. You've already moved on to becoming unforgettable. Your silence became the line they didn't know not to cross. It became the closure they never thought you'd give, and it became the boundary that reminded them you don't need to raise your voice when you've raised your standards. So here's what I want you to do, my friend. If any of this hit your soul, if any of this made you remember who the hell you are, then type this in the comments right now. My silence has power. Say it to yourself. Say it to the mirror. Say it to the world without even opening your mouth. Because you're not weak for going silent. You're strong for walking in stillness. You're dangerous in your discipline, and you're unforgettable in your restraint. And stay with me, because what's coming next, we're going even deeper into the shift that happens when you stop trying to be seen and start seeing yourself. Number 2, they didn't vanish. You became unreachable. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca, they didn't disappear. Let's be clear about that. They still exist, still breathing, still scrolling, still talking to people who don't know the real version of them, still putting on shows, still chasing the attention they swore they didn't need. No, my friends, they didn't vanish. You became unreachable. Let that sit for a second, because what they never expected, what truly flipped the entire script, was that you wouldn't just pull back emotionally, you'd become invisible energetically. They thought you'd hover, linger in the shadows, secretly watching, subtly trying, hoping they'd notice. But what really happened? You stepped off the stage entirely. No curtain call, no final line, just stillness. Silence, distance, and that space, that silence, that absence of effort, it haunted them far more than any dramatic exit ever could. Imagine walking into a room where a candle used to burn every night without fail. Every time they opened their inbox, checked their feed, or walked past something that reminded them of you, they expected that little flame to flicker. Maybe just a glimpse of your energy, a moment of your warmth, but instead, cold air, empty space, no fire, just quiet. And that quiet wasn't accidental, it was intentional. See, folks, when you begin to value your peace, you stop asking for attention. You stop needing to be seen by people who only looked at you when it served them. You stop explaining your silence to those who misunderstood your voice. You don't just take space, you detach from the entire orbit. That's what happened here. You didn't ghost them. You outgrew them. You outgrew the dynamic. You outgrew the game. And here's what's wild. They expected your silence to be temporary, a phase, a test, a power play. But the longer it lasted, the more they realized this wasn't about them anymore. It was about you. You didn't go silent to pull them closer. You went silent because their proximity was pulling you away from yourself. That's the difference between manipulation and mastery. Manipulation uses silence as punishment. Mastery uses silence as protection. Now let's be real. They were waiting, watching, wondering, hoping for the old version of you to return. The one who used to check in, the one who couldn't sit in silence without itching to fix it, the one who'd find an excuse to stay connected even when everything screamed, "Let go." But this time, that version didn't show up, because the man who once needed to be seen now walks in such clarity that visibility becomes optional. You don't need to be acknowledged to feel real anymore. You know who you are now. That's what makes you unreachable, not that you blocked them, not that you disappeared off the planet, but that they no longer have access to the version of you who once gave them free rent in your mind. And that, my friends, is power. Because people can handle distance when they believe it's temporary. But when it becomes the new reality, when it becomes the standard. That's when they panic. That's when the silence stops feeling like space and starts sounding like consequence. Here's the lie the world tries to sell you. If you stop showing up, they'll forget you. But here's the truth. When your presence carried weight, your absence becomes heavier. They remember you more when you're gone, because your silence speaks in a language that noise never could. They start replaying your discipline, your calm, the way you didn't beg, the way you didn't fold, the way you just kept walking. And with every quiet step you took away from chaos, their mind started running in circles they could no longer control. They didn't vanish. They're still out there, folks. But you became untouchable, not out of spite, not out of games, but because you finally realized that your energy is currency, and not everyone deserves a piece of it. So let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt that shift? That moment when you stop hoping they'll change and start changing the direction of your life instead? When you stop holding your breath for an apology and start breathing deeper in your own silence? That's not just healing, that's freedom, that's self-respect turned into a lifestyle. And if you've been there, or you're getting there now, then I want you to type this in the comments. I became unreachable. Say it, write it, show the world around you, not with noise, not with shouting, but with calm conviction. This isn't about revenge, it's about revelation, about you finally seeing that the version of you that used to need them doesn't exist anymore. And if this resonated, stay with me, because we're just getting warmed up. What comes next? We'll explore how your composure replaced their chaos, and why they didn't see it coming until it was too late. Number 3, their chaos craved your reaction, but you gave them composure. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Epictetus. They didn't want peace, they wanted power. They didn't want understanding, they wanted a scene. They wanted to watch you break, explode, defend, explain, beg, anything that made them feel important again. Because your reaction was their fuel, your emotion was their mirror. And when you took it all away, that's when their chaos had to face its own reflection. Let's be honest, folks. We live in a world where emotional noise is the norm. Everyone wants to be loud, dramatic, reactive. It's like being in a crowded marketplace where everyone is yelling to be heard. But then there's you, standing in the middle of all of it, still, focused, unaffected. Not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself to respond only when it aligns with your peace. They tried to throw emotional grenades your way, passive-aggressive texts, half-hearted posts meant for you to see, delayed replies, ghosting, arguments over nothing. And for what? To pull a reaction out of you, to spark something that reminded them they still had access to your emotions. But it didn't work this time, because this time you didn't show up for the drama. You showed up for your own clarity, and that shook them. Imagine a child throwing a tantrum in a grocery store, flailing on the ground, screaming. Now imagine a parent, calm, collected, watching without reacting, not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. They know not every scream deserves attention. That's what you became, not the reactive boy, but the grounded man. And your calm? It was louder than any of their chaos could ever be. They expected you to fight for the connection, to explain why you're worthy, to beg for understanding. But instead, you responded with discipline. You responded with indifference to the nonsense. And let me tell you, that's the kind of response they never saw coming. Because most people are addicted to drama, but allergic to accountability. And your composure? It wasn't passive. It was powerful. It wasn't you doing nothing. It was you doing everything differently. It was you reclaiming your time, your breath, your dignity. And they noticed. Oh, they noticed. They noticed when you didn't text back, when you didn't argue, when you didn't watch their story like their post or respond to their little emotional bait traps. They noticed when you chose silence over spectacle. And deep down, they felt it, that shift, that emotional disconnection, that moment when the spotlight turned off and they were left on stage alone. You see, folks, people who thrive off your attention will never tell you when they're panicking. They'll act like they're fine, like they've moved on. But behind every fake smile, every forced post, every staged story, they're asking the same quiet question: why isn't he reacting? And that question keeps them awake at night, not because they miss the noise, but because they miss the control. Your emotions used to orbit around them, but now you've entered your own gravity. You've created a world where peace is your default, and performance is no longer your price for being loved. Let me drop a hard truth on you. When you don't react, people will call you cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. But what they're really saying is, you're no longer letting me manipulate your emotions. That's not a flaw, my friend. That's freedom. You didn't go cold. You grew warm toward yourself. You didn't shut down. You stepped back to open up to better. And while they spiral, while they analyze, while they try to read between the lines of your silence, what they fail to understand is you've stopped living for their validation. You've stopped playing a role in their emotional theater. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. How many times did you burn your peace to warm someone who wouldn't even bring wood to the fire? How many times did you explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you? How many times did you show up to emotional fights that had nothing to do with truth and everything to do with control? Not anymore. Now, you choose silence not out of weakness, but out of strength. You choose detachment not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your own mental stability to keep handing it away for free. That's what composure looks like. That's what self-mastery feels like. So, if you're in that space now, where you've stopped reacting, where you're watching their chaos from a place of calm, I want you to write this in the comments right now. I choose composure. Let the world see it. Let the ones who once controlled your emotions feel it. And let you remember it. Because you're not here to entertain chaos. You're here to embody peace. Stay with me, my friends, because in the next part, we're going even deeper into the moment they realized that your silence wasn't passive. It was your highest form of communication. Number 4. The silence began to say what words never could. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. At some point, folks, words just lose their power. You've said it all. You've tried to explain, to express, to fix, to be understood, and nothing changed. Nothing landed. So you did the only thing left. You went quiet. And that silence became a language of its own. A language they never expected to hear, but one they couldn't ignore. You didn't drop paragraphs. You didn't send long, emotional texts. You didn't post cryptic quotes or late-night stories filled with subtext. You just stopped. No announcement, no closure. Just a man walking away with the kind of calm that makes people nervous. And suddenly, everything you could have said, they started hearing in your absence. Not because you finally spoke louder, but because you finally stopped speaking at all. See, here's the thing. When you go silent with peace, not with pride, not with ego, not with games, but with true inner clarity, you shift from needing to be heard to needing to heal. And healing doesn't make noise. It doesn't demand an audience. It happens in the quiet, in the distance, in the stillness, where you finally start seeing yourself clearly again. They were ready for drama. They were wired for it. They thought this would play out like every other story. Arguments, desperate calls, guilt trips, unfinished emotions being thrown around like confetti. But you gave them none of it. You gave them silence. You gave them space. And what they didn't realize is that silence isn't empty. It's full of everything they refuse to face. It's full of the loyalty they took for granted, the patience they tested, the consistency they never matched. It's full of the you they overlooked, echoing now in every empty space they once filled with their assumptions. And the longer you stayed silent, the louder it got, because silence reveals, it exposes, it magnifies the truth. They tried to spin it. He must not have cared. He probably moved on fast. He's just cold. But deep down, they know. That silence didn't come from apathy. It came from strength. It came from knowing that some things are beneath explanation, that some people won't get it until your absence teaches them what your presence never could. Imagine a song that used to play in the background every day, so much that they stopped noticing it, took it for granted, skipped it, ignored it. Then one day, gone, and suddenly everything else sounds hollow. That's what happened when you went quiet. The silence wasn't the end of the song. It was the realization that they were never really listening. They didn't want you to walk away in strength. They wanted you to crawl back in confusion. But when you chose clarity instead of chaos, you flipped the entire story. And now they're sitting with it, sitting in the space where your words used to be, wondering, guessing, regretting. Because silence doesn't give answers. It forces them to create their own. And that's where their mind spirals. That's where the what-ifs and did I mess up start living. That's when the weight of what they lost finally starts sinking in. And let's be real. Most people can handle arguments. They can handle anger, but they cannot handle indifference. They cannot handle stillness. They cannot handle the idea that they no longer have a key to your peace. You didn't go silent because you gave up. You went silent because you finally saw the truth, that your voice had become currency in a market that only paid you in emotional debt, and enough was enough. It's not easy, I know, staying silent when every emotion in your chest is begging to be expressed, choosing peace over proving your point. But that's what separates the men from the boys, the kings from the crowd, the stoic from the reactive. Because when you stop explaining your worth, people start realizing they never deserved your presence to begin with. So let me ask you, my friends, how many times did you try to explain your heart to people who had already made up their mind? How many times did you try to keep the peace by sacrificing your own? How many times did you dilute your depth just so someone else wouldn't feel shallow next to it? Never again. Now your silence isn't absence, it's authority, it's not avoidance, it's alignment. And if you're walking that path right now, I want you to comment these 4 words down below. My silence speaks volumes. Say it for yourself. Show it to the world. Let them know this isn't just a phase, it's a standard. You're not here to be half heard. You're not here to shout over chaos. You're here to live in truth, to speak with action, to walk with stillness that screams louder than words ever could. And stay close, my friend, because what's coming next? We're about to uncover how your absence didn't just leave a gap, it left a legacy they never expected to carry. Number 5. Your absence didn't leave a void, it left a standard. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. They thought your absence would be like most, loud for a moment, then forgotten. Just another gap they'd fill with noise, with distractions, with someone else. But what they didn't expect was that you wouldn't leave behind emptiness. You'd leave behind a blueprint, a standard they didn't even realize you were setting until it was gone. At first, they tried to replace your presence the way people replace shoes, easily, quickly, with something that looked good on the surface. But not everything that fits feels right. Because what you gave wasn't surface. It was soul. It wasn't flashy. It was foundational. And once you remove something that real, everything else feels hollow by comparison. You see, folks, when your presence carried peace, depth, consistency and grounding energy, your absence doesn't just vanish. It echoes. It becomes a contrast. It becomes a ruler by which every new interaction is silently measured. And no matter how loud the world gets, nothing can replicate the quiet calm of a man who knew who he was. They started realizing it in small moments, the way conversations with others lacked substance, the way attention felt shallow, the way laughter seemed forced. There were smiles, sure, there were people, but there was no center. No one who looked them in the eyes and actually saw them. No one who listened without needing to speak over them. No one who stood still while everyone else rushed to impress. That's when it hit them. It wasn't just you they missed. It was what they became around you. Stable, grounded, safe, seen. And now that you're gone, they're left chasing shadows of the peace you once brought without ever needing to announce it. They thought they could move on easily, but your calm created a new normal for them. Your discipline became a baseline. Your depth ruined the shallow. And now every time they interact with someone new, they're met with a reality they didn't expect. Not everyone is you. That's the thing about raising the standard without trying. You don't do it by preaching. You do it by showing up consistently, by holding boundaries without explanation, by offering presence without pressure. You became the calm in their storm, and they didn't even realize it until they stepped back into chaos. Now they're scrolling, watching, comparing, searching. But the truth is, they're not really looking for someone new. They're looking for the version of you they didn't value when they had it. And that, my friend, is the silent win. Not that they miss you, but that you evolved into someone who can't be replaced. Not because you're flawless, but because you're rare. Because your energy wasn't something that begged to be felt. It simply was. And now, every time they engage with what once satisfied them, it feels flat. It feels cheap. It feels off. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine someone who drank clean, pure spring water for a long time. Then one day, that source is gone, and all they have left is tap. It still looks like water, still fills the cup, still quenches the thirst. Temporarily. But something's missing. The freshness, the purity, the standard. And no matter how much they drink, it never feels the same again. That's you. Your absence didn't just take you away. It exposed what they lacked all along. It revealed what they couldn't appreciate when it was given freely. And now they're thirsty in a world full of options, but starving for something real, for something like you. But here's the real shift. You didn't go silent so they'd realize your value. You went silent because you finally realized it yourself. You stopped showing up just to be understood. You stopped over-explaining your piece. You stopped negotiating with chaos. You realized that when you bring grounded energy into someone's unstable world, they either rise with you or fall away. And if they fell, so be it. Because you're not here to be everyone's lesson. You're here to be your own standard. So if you've ever walked away from a place that didn't deserve your energy, if you've ever held your silence and felt the world shift in its absence, then I want you to comment below. I am the standard. Say it like you mean it. Say it without noise, without ego, without needing applause. Say it because you've earned it, because you've bled for it, because you've rebuilt yourself brick by brick with discipline, patience, and purpose. And if this part hit home, if you feel that shift in your chest, then stay with me, because next we're going into the moment they realized you weren't ignoring them. You had simply outgrown the need to be seen. Number 6, now they're watching, but you've outgrown the stage. The greatest act of power is not commanding attention, it's being completely at peace without it. They're still watching, my friend. Don't be fooled. Just because the messages have stopped doesn't mean the curiosity has. Just because they haven't reached out doesn't mean you're not living in the back of their mind like an unsolved riddle. They're quiet now, yes. But it's not the kind of quiet that means peace. It's the kind that means they're observing something they don't understand. They thought you'd always be there, visible, available, predictable. They thought no matter how messy things got, you'd show up like you always did. Maybe not right away, but eventually, because that's what you did before, right? You circled back. You gave them grace. You made space. You performed for their comfort like an emotional safety net. But this time was different. This time, you didn't just walk away. You left the stage entirely. You didn't make an exit with fireworks or one final emotional plea. You didn't announce your departure or hope they'd chase after you. No! You just stopped showing up. You stepped behind the curtain, closed it quietly, and kept walking. And now, they're sitting in the audience, still waiting for the encore, still refreshing your profile, still checking your stories, hoping to see something, anything that means you're still caught in the loop with them. But there's nothing. No cryptic quotes, no sad playlists, no subtle reach-outs. Just stillness. You didn't disappear, you evolved. See, when a man starts to heal, his energy changes. It's no longer loud. It's no longer trying to prove anything. It becomes still, sovereign, sacred. And to the ones who were addicted to your attention, that evolution feels like abandonment. But it's not. It's alignment. You're no longer performing in a place where you're not respected. And that shift, that's what's driving them mad. Because they can't place you anymore. You're no longer reacting in ways they predicted. You're no longer in emotional orbit. You've left the gravity of their games, and now you're unreachable. Not because you're hiding, but because you're free. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a lighthouse. It doesn't follow the ships. It doesn't flash brighter for the ones who drift away. It just stays where it is, solid, unmoved, grounded, and yet every lost sailor still looks for it, still hopes to see its light cutting through the dark. That's you now, the lighthouse. They're still trying to read your silence like it's a script they forgot the ending to. Is he still hurt? Does he miss me? Has he found someone new? Was I ever really seen? But none of those questions are about you anymore. They're about them, their doubt, their regret, their confusion. You've stopped participating, and now they're stuck with a mirror instead of a partner in their emotional tug-of-war. Here's the part they didn't expect. You don't even need them to see you now. You're not living for that anymore. You've outgrown the version of you that needed their attention to feel whole. You've stepped into the kind of man who doesn't beg to be noticed because he's too focused on building something that doesn't depend on anyone else's gaze. And I know it used to sting. that silence on their end, that absence of closure. But now, you realize that their silence doesn't hold weight anymore, not when yours is built on strength, not when yours is intentional. Let me give you something real, folks. They're watching because they lost access to something real, and real is rare. That's the truth. They didn't value it when it was freely given, and now that it's gone, they can't stop comparing everything else to it. Your energy left a mark, not because it was loud, but because it was honest, because it was solid, because it didn't flinch. And now they watch from the crowd while you build in silence, while you grow in ways they'll never witness, while you become the kind of man who no longer needs applause to move forward. You're not on that stage anymore. You're not acting for their approval. You're not giving them updates they didn't earn. You're living, quietly, boldly, with intention. So here's what I want you to write in the comments if this hit your chest like a truth you've been waiting to hear. I outgrew the stage. Say it. For every version of you that used to explain too much, for every time you waited for them to notice your effort, for every time you gave more than you got, say it to remind yourself that growth isn't loud. It's grounded. And if this stirred something in you, if you know they're watching and you're finally okay with not performing, stay with me. Because next, we're diving into the moment they realize your silence didn't mean retreat. It meant you were becoming something they could no longer reach. Number 7. Your silence wasn't the end. It was your becoming. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. They thought the silence meant you gave up, that you were finished, that the story was over and you had nothing left to say. But what they didn't realize was that your silence wasn't the closing scene. It was the transformation sequence. It wasn't the end of your voice. It was the beginning of your evolution. See, folks, when you go quiet, most people assume you're broken, that you're licking wounds, that you're lost in emotion. But a Stoic man doesn't go quiet to escape. He goes quiet to return to himself. The silence isn't a retreat. It's a reset. A place where you stop feeding what drains you and start planting what grows you. And what they never saw coming is that the version of you they thought they left behind was never going to be the version they met again. You weren't waiting in silence. You were working in it, while they were checking for signs of weakness, of relapse, of regret. You were rebuilding, quietly, patiently, piece by piece. You weren't trying to prove your worth to them anymore. You were remembering it for yourself. That's the real shift, when a man no longer uses his voice to be heard by others, but to listen to himself. Let's be honest, most people only go silent when they have nothing left. But not you. You went silent because you had finally found everything, your time, your clarity, your emotional discipline, and you didn't need to shout it from rooftops. You didn't need to update the world. You didn't need to perform it online, because real growth, it doesn't beg to be noticed. It just is. Imagine a caterpillar. When it disappears, no one claps, no one cheers. It crawls into darkness, into solitude, into silence, and for a while, it looks like it's gone, like it's done. But inside, something miraculous is happening. Quietly, slowly, powerfully. The wings are forming, and when it finally returns, it doesn't crawl back. It flies. That's you now. They were waiting for the breakdown, but they're about to witness the breakthrough. And here's what hits the hardest. They weren't ready for you to come back stronger. They weren't prepared for you to come back so grounded, so focused, so unbothered. They expected pain. They didn't anticipate power. They assumed you'd miss them. They didn't realize you'd meet yourself. That's the real glow-up. Not the new haircut, not the flashy revenge, but the inner alignment that says, I no longer abandon myself to keep others comfortable. And that silence they thought meant the end, it became the container for your becoming. You started moving different, thinking different, choosing different. Because the old you, he reacted, he over-explained, he settled. But the new you? He observes, he decides, he walks away with peace as his compass and purpose as his destination. It wasn't about punishing them, it was about protecting you. It wasn't about proving they were wrong, it was about remembering what was right for your soul. That's the difference between silence that comes from bitterness and silence that comes from balance. They didn't get it. They still don't. They think you're avoiding, but what you're really doing is becoming unavailable to anything that doesn't align with your standards. And that kind of energy, it's felt. Even in your absence, especially in your absence. Because a man who speaks less but moves with clarity becomes unforgettable. A man who stops proving and starts embodying becomes unstoppable. A man who values his own peace over external validation becomes untouchable. Let me ask you something, my friends. Have you ever realized that the silence people fear the most is the one where you no longer need them to understand you? That's when you become dangerous. That's when your stillness becomes your message. That's when your aura walks into rooms your words never needed to enter. If that's you right now, if you've gone silent not to vanish but to evolve, then I want you to drop this in the comments right now. This is my becoming. Say it like a promise to yourself, to your future, to the version of you that once gave your energy to places that couldn't hold it. Show them, without saying a word, that silence wasn't your surrender, it was your awakening. And stay with me, because what comes next? We're going to break open the moment they realize your silence didn't just change the dynamic, it changed who you are, and who they'll never get access to again. Number 8. They realized you didn't need closure, because you became it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. They kept waiting, didn't they? For the message, for the apology, for the final paragraph they thought they deserved. They thought silence meant there was something left unsaid, something unfinished, something they still had the right to receive. But my friend, what they never expected, what truly broke the rhythm of their expectations, was this. You didn't need closure because you became it. And that hit them harder than anything you could have written, because the version of you they were waiting to hear from, he doesn't exist anymore. He evolved in the silence they mistook for weakness. He grew in the distance they thought was empty. And now, when they revisit the story in their minds, replaying the last texts, the last conversations, they're not haunted by what you said. They're haunted by what you didn't say. You didn't explain. You didn't chase clarity. You didn't justify your leaving. You didn't throw one last emotional grenade just to be heard. You walked away without noise, and that silence became the mirror they didn't want to look into. Because it wasn't cold, it wasn't bitter, it was composed, it was final. See, people expect chaos when they walk away from something real. They expect tears, they expect breakdowns, they expect the please just understand moments. That's the game most people play, the false belief that drama equals depth. But you played a different game, one they didn't recognize. You walked like a man who had already made peace with the storm. A man who had already buried the version of himself that used to fight for things that drained him. And now, your lack of a finale became the finale. Because here's the truth, real closure doesn't come from someone else's explanation. It comes from your own elevation, from choosing your self-respect over their confusion, from realizing that understanding isn't owed, it's earned. And if someone didn't take the time to understand you when you were present, they don't deserve to dissect your silence after you're gone. Let me give you an image. Picture a book they never finished, left it on the shelf, got distracted, lost interest, thought they'd come back to it one day. But when they returned, it was gone. And not just gone, but published, rewritten, sold out in places they no longer had access to. That's you. You were the unfinished story they thought they could return to. But you didn't wait on the shelf. You became the author of your own next chapter. And the beauty. You didn't write it out of revenge. You didn't rewrite yourself just to prove them wrong. You rewrote yourself because you were finally ready to become right with yourself. Your silence wasn't about them. It was about you coming home to your own soul. And there's nothing louder, nothing more haunting than a man who walks in purpose without needing to be understood. They're still spinning the story, still asking themselves why you never said more, still wondering what you're thinking, how you feel, whether it all mattered to you. But they'll never get the answer they're looking for, not because you're being cruel, but because they're no longer part of the conversation. You outgrew the need to explain. You stopped knocking on doors that didn't open. You started building houses where your peace could live undisturbed. And let me tell you something, they feel it now. They feel it in the silence between the people they talk to now. They feel it in the emotional flatness of conversations that used to excite them. They feel it when they realize they never truly knew how grounded they felt in your presence until it was replaced with noise. Your silence wasn't the absence of sound, it was the presence of self-worth. You didn't ghost them. You didn't play games. You simply outgrew the noise and stood tall in your own narrative. And that kind of stillness, it rewrites everything. So let me ask you, one last time, have you reached that point where you no longer wait for closure because you became it? Where your peace no longer hinges on being understood by those who couldn't see you when you were right in front of them? If that's you, if that's where your soul is standing right now, I want you to take 1 second, right here, right now, and drop this in the comments. I am my own closure. Let them see it. Let yourself feel it. Let the world around you know. You don't need to be explained. You don't need to be decoded. You don't need to be validated. You walk in clarity now. You walk in peace. And if this entire message stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of who you're becoming and why you'll never look back, then hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who's still trying to find their voice in the noise. Because this is more than just a message. This is a movement of men reclaiming their silence, not as a weapon, but as wisdom, not as revenge, but as rebirth. And we're just getting started.